I'm going to say something that will offend some of you, but I don't care because it needs to be said. Most of you are cowards. You hide behind excuses, responsibilities, and other people's expectations because you're too afraid to bet on yourself. You complain about your circumstances while refusing to change them. You blame the economy, your boss, your spouse, your parents, everyone except the person in the mirror. You want a better life, but you're not willing to risk your current life to get it. You want success, but you're not willing to fail for it. You want freedom, but you're not willing to give up your comfortable prison. The truth is, you don't have a money problem or a time problem or a luck problem. You have a courage problem. Let me tell you something that changed my life forever. I was sitting in my one-bedroom apartment, 25 years old, broke as a joke, when my mentor asked me a question that shook me to my core. He said, "Jim, what if you acted like you had nothing to lose?" At first, I thought he was crazy. I had bills to pay, a reputation to protect, people depending on me. But then he explained something that opened my eyes. He said, "Son, you're already living like you have nothing. The only difference is whether you're going to act like it or keep pretending you have something to protect." See, most people spend their entire lives building walls around what they think they have. They get a little job, a little house, a little savings account, and suddenly they become professional protectors instead of professional builders. They stop taking chances because they're afraid of losing what little they've accumulated. But here's what I learned that day and what I want to share with you right now. The very thing you're trying to protect by playing it safe is the very thing that's keeping you from getting what you really want. Think about it. How many people do you know who are living lives of quiet desperation? They get up every morning, go to jobs they don't love, come home to lives that don't excite them, and tell themselves they're being responsible. They've convinced themselves that this is what security looks like. But I'm here to tell you, that's not security. That's a prison. It's a beautiful prison with nice furniture and regular paychecks, but it's still a prison. I remember talking to a man at one of my seminars. He was 52 years old, worked at the same company for 28 years, and he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Jim, I hate what I do, but I only have 13 more years until retirement." 13 more years of doing something he hated because he was afraid of losing his pension. That's not living. That's dying in installments. The truth is, when you're constantly worried about protecting what you have, you can't focus on building what you want. Your energy goes into defense instead of offense. You become a goalkeeper instead of a goal scorer. And here's the cruel irony. The things you're trying so hard to protect, they're not even guaranteed anyway. That job you're holding on to so tightly, they could eliminate your position tomorrow. That house you're afraid to risk, the market could crash. That relationship you're afraid to rock the boat in, it could end anyway if you don't grow. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. When you truly understand this, when you really get it in your bones, you start to realize that acting like you have nothing to lose isn't reckless, it's realistic. Now, I'm not talking about being stupid. I'm not suggesting you quit your job tomorrow without a plan or spend your kids' college fund on lottery tickets. What I'm talking about is a fundamental shift in how you approach life. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" start asking, "What if I succeed?" Instead of thinking, "I can't afford to lose what I have," start thinking, "I can't afford not to go for what I want." When I started my business, I had $7 in my pocket and a head full of dreams. People thought I was crazy to leave the security of my job. But you know what? That job wasn't secure anyway. I was just trading my time for money, and not very much money at that. The day I decided to act like I had nothing to lose was the day my real life began. But here's what's interesting about this mindset. The moment you stop being afraid of losing everything, you start gaining everything. When you're not paralyzed by fear, you can think clearly. When you're not protecting, you can create. When you're not holding back, you can move forward. It's like the difference between driving with your foot on the brake and driving with your foot on the gas. Most people think having nothing to lose means you're desperate. But I'm telling you, it means you're free. Free from the opinions of others. Free from the fear of failure. Free from the weight of expectations. Free to be who you really are and do what you really want to do. That's not desperation. When you act like you have nothing to lose, you discover that you actually have everything to gain. You gain confidence because you're not afraid to try. You gain experience because you're willing to fail. You gain respect because people admire courage. You gain opportunities because you're willing to create them. You gain a life worth living because you're finally living it. The beautiful thing about adopting this mindset is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you act boldly, bold things happen. When you take chances, chances come your way. When you stop playing defense, you start scoring points. It's like the universe responds to your energy and starts sending you what you're willing to receive. I think about some of the most successful people I know, and every single one of them had a moment when they decided to bet on themselves instead of playing it safe. They had a moment when they said, you know what? I'm tired of living small. I'm tired of settling. I'm going to go for it. And whatever happens, happens. That's what separates the achievers from the dreamers. The dreamers keep dreaming about what they want while the achievers stop talking and start acting. They understand that the biggest risk in life isn't failing, it's not trying. They understand that you don't get rewarded for playing it safe, you get rewarded for playing it smart and bold. Now let me be clear about what it really means to have nothing to lose. It doesn't mean you're careless with your responsibilities or reckless with your relationships. It means you understand that everything you have is temporary anyway, so you might as well use it to build something permanent. It means you realize that your security doesn't come from holding on to things. Think about it this way. Every day you don't act on your dreams. Every day you don't take that chance. Every day you choose safety over possibility. You're risking something much more valuable than money or status. You're risking your potential. You're risking your purpose. You're risking the life you were meant to live. I've met people in their 70s who told me their biggest regret wasn't the things they did that didn't work out. Their biggest regret was the things they didn't do because they were afraid. They were afraid of what people would think. They were afraid of failing. They were afraid of losing what little they had. And because of that fear, they lost something much more precious. They lost their chance. The person who acts like they have nothing to lose understands that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every no gets you closer to a yes. Every mistake teaches you something valuable. Every setback sets you up for a comeback. When you're not afraid of these things, you can use them instead of being used by them. Here's another thing I've learned. When you act like you have nothing to lose, you become incredibly attractive to opportunities and people. Why? Because confidence is magnetic. Boldness is inspiring. People want to be around someone who's going somewhere, not someone who's standing still. Opportunities flow toward people who are in motion, not people who are in protection mode. I remember when I decided to become a speaker. I had no experience, no credentials, no connections. All I had was a message and the willingness to share it. People told me I was crazy. They said I should stick with what I knew. But I understood something they didn't. I understood that the person I was becoming was more important than the person I had been. When you act like you have nothing to lose, you give yourself permission to become who you're supposed to be. You stop limiting yourself based on your past and start expanding yourself based on your potential. You stop asking, who am I to do this, and start asking, who am I not to do this? The world needs what you have to offer, but you can't offer it if you're too busy protecting what you think you have. You can't share your gifts if you're too afraid of criticism. You can't build your dreams if you're too worried about your current situation. Let me tell you what happens when you truly adopt this mindset. First, you become incredibly decisive. When you're not afraid of making the wrong choice, you can make choices quickly and adjust as you go. Indecision is what kills dreams, not bad decisions. You can recover from a bad decision. Second, you become incredibly resilient. When things don't go as planned, and they won't always go as planned, you don't fall apart because you weren't counting on any particular outcome anyway. You adapt, you adjust, you keep moving, you understand that setbacks are temporary, but giving up is permanent. Third, you become incredibly creative. When you're not limited by what you think is possible based on your current resources, you start seeing possibilities everywhere. You start asking better questions. Instead of how can I afford this, you ask, how can I make this happen? Instead of what if it doesn't work, you ask, what if it does work? Fourth, you become incredibly attractive to other bold people. Like attracts like. When you're willing to take chances, you attract other people who are willing to take chances. You build a network of people who support your growth instead of questioning your decisions. Now, let me give you some practical ways to start developing this mindset. First, start small, but start today. Take one small action towards something you want, but have been afraid to pursue. Make that phone call, send that email, have that conversation, sign up for that class. The size of the action doesn't matter as much as the fact that you're acting. Second, practice making decisions quickly. Most people take too long to make decisions because they're trying to find the perfect choice. But there is no perfect choice. There are only choices and consequences. Make your choice and make it work. Speed is more important than perfection when it comes to decision making. Third, surround yourself with people who think bigger than you do. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Find people who challenge you, inspire you, and support your growth. Distance yourself from people who always tell you why something won't work. Fourth, develop the habit of asking, what's the worst that could happen? Usually, when you really think about it, the worst case scenario isn't that bad. You might fail, you might look foolish, you might lose some money, but you won't die, and you'll probably learn something valuable. The worst case scenario of not trying is that you'll always wonder what could have been. Fifth, celebrate your failures as much as your successes. Every failure is proof that you're trying. Every mistake is evidence that you're growing. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. When you change your relationship with failure, you change your relationship with risk. Sixth, focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. You can control your effort, your attitude, your preparation, and your response to circumstances. You can't control the economy, other people's decisions, or the timing of opportunities. Put your energy where it can make a difference. Seventh, develop multiple streams of income and opportunity. The person who depends on one source of income will always be afraid of losing it. But the person who has multiple sources of income can afford to take chances with any one of them. Diversification creates freedom. Eighth, invest in yourself continuously. The more skills you have, the more confident you become, the more you know, the more opportunities you see, the more valuable you are, the less you have to worry about security. Your earning ability is your greatest asset, so develop it constantly. Ninth, practice gratitude for what you have while working for what you want. Gratitude keeps you positive and attracts more good things into your life. But don't let gratitude become an excuse for not growing. You can be grateful for where you are and still work toward where you want to be. Finally, remember that time is your most valuable asset. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. Every day you spend playing it safe is a day you can't get back. Every opportunity you pass up because you're afraid is an opportunity that may not come again. When you truly understand that you have nothing to lose because everything is temporary anyway, you start living with a freedom that most people never experience. You start taking chances that most people are too afraid to take. You start building a life that most people only dream about. I want you to think about your life right now. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you attempt if you weren't afraid of what people would think? What would you create if you weren't worried about losing what you have? Those answers will tell you what you should be doing. The person who acts like they have nothing to lose doesn't become reckless, they become fearless. They don't become careless, They become careful about the right things. They don't stop planning, they stop limiting their plans based on their fears. This is your life. This is your one shot. You can spend it protecting what little you have, or you can spend it building what you really want. You can live in fear of losing, or you can live in faith of gaining. You can play it safe and guarantee mediocrity, or you can take chances and create the possibility of greatness. The choice is yours, but the clock is ticking. Every day you wait is a day you can't get back. Every opportunity you pass up is an opportunity that may not return. Every dream you postpone becomes harder to achieve. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, starting right now, act like you have nothing to lose. Not because you're desperate, but because you're free. Not because you don't care about the outcome, but because you care more about the attempt. Not because you want to lose everything, but because you want to gain everything that's possible when you're not afraid to try. Remember, you came into this world with nothing and you'll leave with nothing. Everything in between is just borrowed time and borrowed resources. The question is, what are you going to do with what you've been given? Are you going to protect it and watch it slowly slip away, or are you going to invest it and watch it multiply? The people who change the world, the people who build great businesses, the people who live extraordinary lives, they all have one thing in common. They learned to act like they had nothing to lose, and because of that, they gained everything worth having. Your time is now. Your moment is here. Stop waiting for permission. Stop looking for guarantees. Stop hoping for perfect conditions. Act like you have nothing to lose, because in the end, that's exactly what will set you free to gain everything you've ever wanted. The life you want is waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it. The opportunities you need are waiting for you to be bold enough to create them. The person you're meant to become is waiting for you to stop playing it safe and start playing to win. Act like you have nothing to lose and watch as you gain everything worth having. Your future self is counting on the decision you make today. Don't let them down. Let me share with you one more story that will cement this philosophy in your mind forever. I knew a woman who worked as a secretary for 30 years. Same desk, same routine, same small paycheck. She had always dreamed of opening her own restaurant, but she was terrified of leaving her steady job. She had convinced herself that her little pension and her predictable schedule were worth more than her dreams. Then one day the company downsized and she lost her job anyway. At 55 years old, she found herself exactly where she was afraid of being, with nothing to lose. But instead of falling apart, something amazing happened. For the first time in decades, she felt free. Free from the illusion of security that had kept her trapped for so long. Within 6 months, she had opened a small cafe. Within 2 years, she had expanded to 3 locations. Today, she makes more money in a month than she used to make in a year, and she wakes up every morning excited about her work. She told me, "Jim, losing that job was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop pretending I had something to protect and start building something worth protecting." That's the power of this mindset. Sometimes life forces it on you, but you don't have to wait for life to make the choice. You can choose it yourself. Right now, today. You see, when you act like you have nothing to lose, you also discover that you have nothing to prove. You stop trying to impress people and start trying to express yourself. You stop worrying about fitting in and start focusing on standing out. You stop asking for permission and start taking responsibility. I've noticed that people who adopt this philosophy become incredibly generous. Why? Because when you're not afraid of losing what you have, you can afford to give. You can share your knowledge without worrying that someone will steal your ideas. You can help others succeed without fearing it will diminish your own success. You can love without holding back because you're not afraid of getting hurt. This generosity creates a cycle of abundance in your life. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you help others, the more help comes your way. The more you share, the more comes back to you. But this only works when you're operating from abundance, not scarcity. And abundance thinking comes from understanding that you have nothing to lose. Let me tell you about the difference between playing not to lose and playing to win. When you play not to lose, every decision is based on fear. You avoid opportunities because they might not work out. You stay in relationships that don't serve you because you're afraid of being alone. You keep jobs that don't fulfill you because you're afraid of not having income. But when you play to win, every decision is based on possibility. You pursue opportunities because they might work out better than you imagined. You leave relationships that don't serve you because you know you deserve better. You quit jobs that don't fulfill you because you believe in your ability to create something better. The person who plays to win understands that life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. This is your one chance to see what you're capable of. This is your opportunity to find out how far you can go, how much you can accomplish, how many people you can help, how much joy you can experience. I want you to understand something about regret. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. Every day you don't act on your dreams, you're building a mountain of regret that will be impossible to carry in your later years. Every opportunity you pass up because you're afraid adds weight to that mountain. But here's the beautiful thing. The moment you decide to act like you have nothing to lose, that mountain starts to shrink. Every bold action you take removes a stone from that pile. Every chance you take lightens the load. Every dream you pursue reduces the weight of what could have been. The most successful people I know have mastered the art of failing forward. They understand that failure is not falling down, it's staying down. They fail quickly, fail cheaply, fail often, and fail forward. They use each failure as feedback, as education, as fuel for their next attempt. When you act like you have nothing to lose, you become comfortable with failure because you understand its true purpose. Failure is not punishment for trying, it's preparation for succeeding. It's not a verdict on your worth, it's a vote of confidence in your courage. I think about the greatest innovations in human history, and every single one came from someone who was willing to look foolish, to be wrong, to fail publicly. The Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics who thought they could fly. People laughed at them, but they acted like they had nothing to lose. And they gave humanity the gift of flight. Edison failed thousands of times before he invented the light bulb. When asked about his failures, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's the mindset of someone who understands that they have nothing to lose and everything to gain from trying. You have that same potential within you. You have ideas that could change your life, your family's life, maybe even the world. But those ideas will die with you if you don't act on them. They'll remain forever trapped in the prison of what if you don't have the courage to set them free. Here's something else I want you to understand. When you act like you have nothing to lose, you become a magnet for other people's confidence. People want to invest in someone who believes in themselves. They want to hire someone who's not afraid to take responsibility. They want to partner with someone who's willing to take risks. But when you're always playing it safe, always protecting what little you have, people sense that fear. They can feel your desperation, your neediness, your attachment to outcomes. And that repels opportunity instead of attracting it. The universe responds to your energy. When your energy says, "I'm afraid of losing what I have," the universe hears, "Keep them where they are." But when your energy says, "I'm ready for whatever comes next," the universe hears, "Send them more opportunities." This is not mystical thinking, this is practical psychology. When you're confident and bold, you notice more opportunities. When you're fearful and protective, you miss them. When you're open to possibilities, you create them. When you're closed off and defensive, you block them. I want to leave you with this final thought. Every great achievement in human history started with someone who decided to act like they had nothing to lose. Every breakthrough, every innovation, Every moment of progress came from someone who was willing to risk what they had for what they could become. You are standing at that same crossroads right now. You can choose to protect what little you have and guarantee that little is all you will ever have. Or you can choose to risk what you have for the chance to gain everything you've ever wanted. The choice is yours, but remember this, in the end, we all lose everything anyway. The question is not whether you'll lose what you have. The question is whether you'll use what you have to build something lasting before you lose it. Act like you have nothing to lose, because that's exactly what will give you everything to gain. Your dreams are waiting. Your potential is calling. Your future is depending on the courage you show today. The time for playing it safe is over. The time for protecting what little you have is finished. The time for acting like you have nothing to lose is now.